So guys, welcome to the Hidden History of Japan Part 2. If you haven't seen the first part, please go and watch that. Otherwise you'll be really confused as to what we are talking about here. And I'm going to try and get this cover as much as possible in under 12 minutes and 30 seconds, which is how long the previous part was. So let's get started. So last time we covered up to page 2. So we covered this in the previous video, and we were looking at this book, The Comprehensive History of the South Manchurian Railways Company. So I'm not going to go through all that, but we'll cover what it said here. Okay, so this colony illustrates several aspects of what investment credit economies show. So their living standards were perhaps the highest in the world at the time. So this was around, I think, 1930 something. And they had special express trains called Asia, just that, which were among the fastest and best appointed trains in the world. Of course, that was during that time. Sorry if I get my pronunciations butchered here, but the city of Haicheng, I think that's how it's pronounced, which is now Changchun. So that's a former city that was planned and built by the Mentetsu, which could be described as a forerunner to the Chinese plan of building 400 new cities of about a million each, million people each, built at the rate of 20 a year between the years 2000 and 2020. So that's a lot of cities there. That's something that's required for a nation of 1 billion people. The vast Mentetsu economic growth was caused, but not financed, by the annual Government of Japan agreement and the Bank of Japan, of course, agreement to the no-cost investment creation budget earmarked to produce that growth. So what did they return? What's their revenue? It was about 25% of government revenues just from this colony alone during the 1930s. So that's a significant amount, actually, considering the population, which is, I believe, 1 million or something, compared to Japan's significantly higher population. And so what else came with it? They researched the best available strains and methods of producing soya beans, so that's how it became common in East Asia and to the rest of Asia as well. Soybean farming, production, distribution became so important that some commenters regarded this aspect of the Mentetsu as the dominant one. So that's probably why soya is so dominant in Asian diets nowadays. That also helped feed Mao's Liberation Army when they started to organize in their Manchurian bases as well. So it helped in a lot of things. Not just that, but I guess the population boom as well. Eventually, it was asset stripped by the Russians, and all its equipment as well was removed by the Russians in 1945. Unfortunately, so we can't go there and research what happened. So after 1946, many of these colonists brought back to Japan the high growth economics they had practiced in that colony, and then they used that understanding of that new technology to produce high economic growth in post-war Japan. So it's pretty self-explanatory. And they were just called the Manchurians. So when they came to Japan, they brought their understanding as well, of course. And eventually, though, the term Manchurian came to be seen with high regards because Japan is exploding at this 10% rates of economic growth from 1945 to 52. So that's another book there, I believe, or just a link to an online article. So, as usual in East Asia, they kept it a secret until 1961, when Dr. Osamu Shimomura published his economic model of Japan, and the West ignored him as usual. So I think we covered this in the previous video. That book is also available on the internet, but I wouldn't recommend getting this book because it does not, as this author states, it does not mention the no-cost credit creation system, which was responsible for the Japanese economic miracle from 1945 to 73, and a bit beyond as well. So it mentions the success, but it doesn't mention how to do it. So author then goes on to state that he hasn't been able to determine whether Shimomura's been to the South, was either employed or even been to the South Manchurian Railway Organization. But it does seem very likely that he visited the colony, given his understanding of investment credit creation. Well, what else was certain was that the Japanese, during the 1945 and 68 period, used bulge credit creation to fund the growth of Japan's investment level. Kenneth Beda, the Australian economist, produces a book in a table in his book about the sheer scale of that credit creation. So this is, of course, yen back then. I don't have. It's hard to quantify for us in dollars now because it is so long ago. Bank of Japan loans and discounts to the banking system, and yeah, it's not easy to simplify that as with the rest of this article, unfortunately. But I'll give you guys, once we finish going through this, I'll give you guys the link. There's an online link for it which has been updated. The main information though stays the same, but it's just at the front page it just says it's been updated and includes a bit of new information. Between 1946 and 1968, bank advances increased by a factor of 246, increasing at an average compound rate of about 28.4% per annum over these 22 years. So the West, as usual, ignored that publication from Shimomura. This is also another book of his. If you're interested, I highly recommend you check it out. I haven't read that book though. I have read this article though a long time ago. So in 61, Shimomura presented his model of the Japanese economy and its equation to the Japanese Economic Association and the Japanese Econometric Society. So it was published under the title Saichud Saisaku no Kihon Mondai. English is Basic Problems of Growth Policy, in a publication called Riron Kaisegaku, I think that's how it's pronounced, in March 1961. Also in that year, Dr. Shinohara published the book The Secret of Accelerated Growth. The year after that, Dr. Kenkichi Kurihara wrote a seminal article in Keiklaw's volume 1962 and repeated his observations in the appendix to chapter 6 of his 1963 book. He then further repeated and expanded his observations in his book, The Growth Potential of the Japanese Economy. That was published in the Johns Hopkins Press in 1971. And all that activity occurred without Western media mentions or academic follow-throughs. And this point 1.4 is talking about the American educated economist Kenkichi Kurihara, who visited the Tokyo Metropolitan University for 6 months in 1965 and produced a translated version of Shimomura's works in his 1971 book, The Growth Potential of the Japanese Economy. I don't know if that book is still available now. Probably is. So good luck for finding that. So it's almost time to finish. Just have 1 minute left. So we'll end it on this page here. Professor Kenneth Kurihara was a distinguished professor of economic theory at the State University of New York in Binghamton. He wrote 8 books and over 50 peer-reviewed journal articles, and he taught macroeconomics at Princeton and Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, as well as being a guest lecturer at the universities of Cambridge. Sorry, just a minute. Sorry, not Cambridge. Okay, Cambridge and Oxford. So yeah, the note was that the observations in that book should have been integrated into Western macroeconomic theory by now, which I agree with. That's his gravestone there. This is actually written by same author. Yeah. So we'll cover the point 1.5 in part 3 of the Hidden History of Japan. I'll see you guys then. Peace out.